Hello there. If you've ever wondered about how you might make a really important impact in your community, you might want to consider creating a financial literacy program. How to do that? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. Today, we're going to be teaching you what key elements should go into a financial literacy program, how you'd want to incorporate mindset into that, what do you need to do to design it well, keep it engaging, and track the results. All that's what we'll be covering next. The key elements. Well, first, let's start talking about budgeting because that's one of the most important. And budgeting, we need to begin to train people in the teaching of the process, not just how to do it, but getting them in the habit of doing it. My wife and I, we had always had a budget. I had it on paper. We knew we would kind of keep track of things, and I would go, well, man, we're way over budget or way under budget right now. We had a brutally hard time following our budget. And then years went by, and I got an app on my phone. We had it put on her phone. That app changed everything. I cannot tell you why, because maybe because it was there on the phone. I don't know. All I do know is that once we got that app, we started meeting our budgets. It was incredible. So teaching people about some of those apps can be really powerful. We also need to teach about savings and investing, right? Everybody should be investing their money. You put some away. You pay yourself first. That's a principle that really needs to be taught. And then we need to kind of analyze their own risk tolerance and teach them some ways to invest that will match that risk tolerance. But everybody should be investing their money. We need to talk about protecting, right, their wealth. Things like insurance, the legal aspects. What do you need for insurance? What shouldn't you get for insurance? What is like really not important insurance to purchase? Teaching all about that. What about taxes and how to read W-2 forms and all of those kind of daily living things? People need to have an understanding about them, right? Credit scores. How do they work? Are they really that important? How do you build it up? How do you do that properly? Using credit cards. All of these little elements really need to be in a financial literacy program. Most financial literacy programs end up falling short because they don't address mindset. See, you carry with you ideas about money, about wealth, about poverty, about work, about entrepreneurship, about risk. And those beliefs that you have about that shape decisions. They shape how you kind of deal with the stress sometimes when you're maybe coming up a little bit short financially. They deal with how you communicate with your loved ones about financial situations. And financial stress is a major issue for married couples, right? All of that can point right back to mindset. So we want to shape your mindset so that you have positive thoughts and beliefs and labels associated with money, associated with risk taking. And when I say risk taking, I don't necessarily mean to make you more likely to take risks, but you need to understand how to manage risk because everything you do with your money entails risk, right? So there's this cost plus kind of thing, these hidden costs of doing one thing over another, opportunity costs, right? All of that coming back to your mindset will shape how you make decisions going forward. So we need to train your mindset, find out what might be holding you back, what's supportive, and work on getting you a mindset of wealth creation. Now, when you design your program, you really want to make it practical, right? You also need to be thinking about the ages you're designing this for. Right now, I'm going to be kind of talking about like from high school, maybe even upper middle school into adulthood, right? There are a lot of adults who can use these money management, this financial literacy program. So you need to think about making it real for them. So you teach a lesson, then have the time built around applying that lesson. All right, so you teach something on budgeting, and maybe it doesn't take much time. After they've filled in their budget, created their budget, now the rest is getting into the daily habit. Well, that daily habit should be designed into your program, to your course. That becomes like the homework. You want to get them in the habit of that. But there's also a lot of other things they can begin to do within your class that might not directly be related to budgeting, but maybe there's ways to find how they can save money shopping, right? What are the different programs out there? What are the different things? Do wholesale clubs really help them save money? What is available so they can learn how they can save money, shop better, find those discounts without necessarily taking lots of time? Do some more analysis on what their own personality is like. This sort of research can be invaluable. Now, let's say as a high school student, or even middle school. Some of these things can be beginning to how to find money for college. How are they going to do that? So you teach an element, right? They practice, they set up their budget, what have you. Now they do some research. What's it going to cost me? Start playing it out in real life. Expenses, what can they expect for income? How can they increase that income? You begin to incorporate all those things. You make it real, you make it a game, you make it competitive, anything like that. That's part of the design that you'd want to build in to your program. All right, so you have designed this so it's engaging, it's real. You also want to be thinking about designing the structure of this. And I don't just mean those pieces that make it engaging, but you need to begin to do some research and make sure you're clear on what your goals are, that you're really clear on each specific element and all the key facts that need to be taught, right? So you design the engagement aspect, but now you need to make sure you're outlining and clearly being able to articulate what the goals, the objectives, and what those key elements are. And then how are you going to build habits? Because ultimately, what's really will make this engaging is when people begin to realize that they're creating the habits that are so necessary. So you design that in. How are you gonna do that? How are you gonna help them figure out each and every day, I need to do this? And if your program, how often are you meeting, right? That's part of that design element. If you're meeting 5 days a week for 10 weeks, something like that, that's different than if you're meeting 2 days a week over 15 or 20. But that's part of the design, right? That means your assignments are different. That means the length of the class might be different. How you structure it would be different. You need to be thinking about those things when you put this all together. The last thing that you really kind of need to design into this is tracking. You want to be able to evaluate and assess how people have done. They want to be able to assess themselves, how far have I come? So you want to be breaking down some of these pieces. And one of the key ones is knowledge, right? So they need to be able to show you that they've learned some of the knowledge base, the language, the understanding of concepts, right? So that's your kind of traditional testing. It would also be evaluating them on the work that they're doing. So example, budgeting, assessing, are they meeting their budget? Are they following their budget? Investing, again, part of this depends on how long is this program, how much you're stretching out. You could be talking about investing, and let's track how you're doing. Well, if it's a 10-week class, it's probably not necessarily much that you'll see investment-wise. If you're doing this course over a year, then you can really begin to assess it. But you would want to somehow track things like that, right? And probably the most important is holding them accountable for getting a daily routine structured around their money management habits. That is, to me, would be one of the most important things that you do. That's a mindset related thing. And how are you going to track that, assess that, hold people accountable, and verify that they're doing what they need to do? Well, that wraps up yet another video. And as always, I encourage you to subscribe to our channel. You can really empower more people by subscribing, because that will help more people get to see these videos. We got some really valuable content out there. In particular, you might want to check out the video, How to Become a Financial Literacy Teacher. So check that one out today. We'll see you in another video.